Dino Luzi Energy Drink. Yeah, it's that good.
All right, welcome to Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast. Monty the Pharaoh, Mike Monty. You're not Jimmy Farrow. What are you doing in that chair?
And you're not wearing pants, but I'm not going to tell anybody. My name is John Mulrooney. Check out the Dino Luzi giveaway. If you want to make $1,000, show them the Scott Olds. $1,000, cash dollars. We're talking about Green, Gene, the real Skrilla. We're looking for your video. Skrilla.
What is the Skrilla?
It's the Skrilla.
Put your hands right down here real
It's
quick.
It's the Skrilla. It's ghetto for money. I'm not
Ghetto for money?
I'm not white. This is a birthmark.
Oh.
Anyway.
That's pretty funny.
If you want to make $1,000, hashtag Dino Luzi giveaway. The very first Italian, as my grandfather would say, Italian energy drink made in Italy but loved in America. Find your power. Dino Luzi energy drink. Go to hashtag Dino Luzi giveaway. Do it now. Put your pants back on.
See you later.
Well, getting back to what I was saying in earlier conversation about to be a professional wrestler, you have to be tough. You know, most of the guys in my day, they have an amateur background or football background. They came from a background where you have to be tough to be in the business. I remember going back to my first year, I'm still on my very first year, George Scott was really like a father to me. I grew up without a father, so George Scott was like a father to me. George Scott, you know, if you look him up on WikiLink, you can learn a whole lot about this guy. You know, he was involved with WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2. He was involved with the career of Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat. You know, a lot of guys that is big stars back in the day, George Scott helped develop these guys. I remember when Ric Flair first started, you had a tie-dye shirt, 275-pound, chubby, had a rag around his head. And what happened that gave Ric Flair his star was in Wilmington, North Carolina, they had these private planes. Ronnie Garvin had one of these private planes too. So a lot of guys got tired of traveling, so they had these private planes. So the pilot got the idea because all the boys had these wrestlers was big. You know, you had to be, if you was under 230 pounds, you was a lightweight in wrestling. You could not be a 220-pound heavyweight champion of the world back in the 70s. They had a different group for guys like Les Thatcher, all the guys that was under 230. Everything from 230 under was light heavyweight title. You know, if you look back, remember they used to have old light heavyweight. Yep. They don't have no more. So you had to be over 230 in order to be called a heavyweight. Like them days, people want to see a wrestler got to be bigger than life. Now, in some territory, the rule didn't apply, like Jerry Lawler, you know, in Tennessee and places like that. You know, they did it. But in most territories, like New York, especially during that time, Mid-Atlantic, Vern Gagne, you had to be, you know, a big guy. They wanted a big guy. So they were flying from Charlotte, North Carolina to Wilmington, where the guy took some of the gasoline out of the airplane to lighten the load because they had all these wrestlers with their bags and everything. So the plane crashed. Johnny Valentine was on the flight, and he became paralyzed. Now, Johnny Valentine is Greg Valentine's father. He became paralyzed from the leg down. Ric Flair was on that flight. He injured his back, but he came out okay, as y'all well know. David Crockett was on that plane. He came out okay. Bob Breggers, who was my first tag team partner, the guy that I talked about earlier, was Bob Breggers. He used to play football, I believe, for Miami Dolphins, but he got paralyzed from the leg there. Now the pilot, his head went straight through the windshield, and it killed him. So Johnny Valentine and Wahoo McDaniel at that time, they were the hardest thing going. They were selling out everything, so they needed somebody to take Johnny Valentine's place. So George Scott started grooming Ric Flair for the job. Fortunately for the company, Ric Flair was able, you know, with all his finesse and everything, he was able to pick up where Johnny Valentine left off. Now, back in the day, if you wrestled Ric Flair, his thing was he was a cardio man. He would get in the dressing room and he would do 300 free squats. We call them sumo squats, where you swing your arm squat down. He would do 300 every night. So he would get guys in the ring and he would blow them up. He was the first wrestler with the boom, 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 high spot, high spot, high spot, high spot. And he would love to tire you out. Once he tire you out, then he'd do his strut. Woo! Then he started kicking your ass because with nothing you can do about it because your ass was tired there. In other words, Ric Flair was the first rope-a-dope. Like, you remember how Muhammad Ali did the rope-a-dope? We laid him against the rope and let old form of what was his name?
George Foreman.
George Foreman, yeah, let old George Foreman tired himself out, and then when George Foreman started throwing punches like this, then when Ali, well, that's how Ric Flair was. He would run you and run you and run you non-stop. You got to realize back in the day, the shortest match back then was 15 minutes. A main event, every main event went 30 minutes. If you did a 10 or 15-minute main event back in them days, people want their money back. There was only 6 matches. They didn't have called it 8 matches, 20 matches, 10 matches. There was only 6 matches. You had a main event, your semi-main, and then you had 3 preliminary matches. So they would have the 3 preliminary matches first. Then they have an intermission, and then right after the intermission was a semi, and then the main event. Now, a lot of your main events back in them days was 1 hour. Ric Flair must have had 1,000 one-hour matches. Wahoo must have had 1,000 one-hour matches. On that card, they would have 4 matches, and they would end with the semifinal. Most of the semifinal was always a tag team match. That's where they would do the tag team. So Ole and Gene Anderson would be in the tag team. Ric Flair would be in the main event against Johnny Weaver or Paul Jones. Paul Jones has got not talked about much, but back in the day, he was a big star back in the Mid-Atlantic time. There was some of the things that being a wrestler you could and you could not do. The guys used to get what they used to get juice. Now, people used to always ask me, was the blood for real? Yeah. How they did it, I hope I don't get in trouble with some of the old timers. They would take a razor blade and they would tape it to their finger. And then when the people not looking, they hit. Now, some guys would let another guy cut them. Just like when Abdullah was wrestling, Abdullah would, he would cut people himself. They would want, and if the guy didn't like you, like the Sheik, not the Iron Sheik, the original Sheik, which is what's his uncle? What is it? Yeah, Sabu uncle. A guy got smart with him anyway, and he cut the guy from ear to ear. And when he get back dressed, he said, "Why you cut him like?" He said, "He moved." So guys would do, you have to be tough. You have to protect yourself. Because guys would try to break your leg. They would try to break your arm. Because if I'm in the ring, let's say with Ric Flair back in the older days, and I was supposed to do a job for Ric Flair, I was supposed to lose Ric Flair. If I could do something to Ric Flair to hurt him, he get hurt in that match, that would move me up the ladder. Because now, hey, you hear what happened with Stan Hansen. Bruno Sammartino broke his neck. All of a sudden, Stan Hansen is a big star in New York because he was wrestling Bruno when he got a broken neck. Chris Adams, same thing happened to him with Von Erich. Kevin got hurt in the ring. Whoever he was wrestling with became a king. Same thing happened with Killer Kowalski. Killer Kowalski was kicking a guy, kicked him on the ear, kicked his ear off. Ripped his ear off the side of his head. He's a killer. Ox Baker hit a guy with the heart punch. The guy died.
Not from the heart punch.
Yeah. The guy died. So then all of a sudden, Ox Baker became a big star because he had this heart punch because the guy died with. So sometimes things would happen accidentally that would automatically shoot a guy to the top because people started fooling. We want to see this guy who broke this guy leg. We want to see this guy that broke this guy arm. We want to see this guy that this Killer Kowalski. He's a killer. They call him a killer because he ripped the guy ear off in the ring. Sometimes a guy would lose an eye or something happened. But whoever is in the ring with that guy during the time that this incident happened, they automatically people want to see it.